Very good morning and welcome back to San Siccario in Italy for the last day of the Biathlon World Cup competition here, and the two relays on the schedule, men and women's. Men to go first, 4 by 7.5 kilometres. Should be an absolute cracker. The weather improved from the last couple of days. It's been much colder overnight. The track's nice and firm, but as you can see, the air temperature just above zero, so it's about perfect for racing, and provided it doesn't get too warm too quickly, we should have a good race for the men. I think the women are going to find it a little tougher with the tracks breaking up, softening up, and it's going to be a little struggle like they had in the sprint event yesterday. 19 teams, in fact, in all today. A little surprised to see the British and the Americans and the Chinese not racing. That's a shame, but we've got 19 good teams in there. And there's the course for the 7.5, a 2.5 kilometre loop, and critically with a climb up to the stadium for the shooting. So that's where things have been going wrong for many teams. Number one team is Germany, having finished second in all three relays so far this year. Russia in second place, Sweden in third. We'll go through the teams when we get nearer to the start. I guess big news from the French team is that Raphael Poré has decided not to race. He's left it to the remainder of the French team to do the honours today, and they've put their best three first. And Simon Fossard, who's only had one World Cup race this year, he comes in on the last leg, so that'll be interesting to see how they get on. Well, Germany may be wearing bib number one, but I'm sure Russia will be starting as favourites. They've put in the strongest team possible with Sherazov, Kruglov, Chepikov and Rozhkov. So I would fancy their chances of taking the win here in San Siccario. Italy for the last day of action in the Biathlon World Cup. Just moments before the start of the men's 4 by 7.5. Mass start as always. Austria looking for their first win since 1999. They won in December 99 in Hochfilzen. There's the French wearing bib number 8 with Julien Robert taking the first leg. Germany have got Danny Graf taking the first leg, a man who's really come to form. There he is, and been looking very promising. I think he's got a great future ahead of him. The Russians with Ivan Sherazov, who's another man who's taken us a little bit by surprise this year. The first leg for Russia. David Ekholm leads the Swedish charge, a team that have done so much better this season with that win in Oberhof, raising their spirits. Austria with Danny Masatic taking the first leg, and Frode Andersen has come in for the Norwegians. A little bit of a surprise there. Berger, Bjorndal and Oss all out of the Norwegian squad, and they've put one of their fastest but certainly riskiest biathletes going first. Andersen on leg number one for Norway. Sashurin takes the first leg for Belarus. Ukraine relying on the talents of Derkach, who's a former World Cup winner, certainly got the ability if he's on form. And as I say, Julien Robert of France taking their first leg. Number 9, Petra Garabik, 35-year-old for the Czech Republic, could be in the shake-up come the first shoot, but it will all come down to the standing shoot for Garabik. Away they go then, 4 by 7.5, the last race before they head to Pakluka for the last round of the World Cup before the World Championships. One or two noticeable absentees deciding that it's better to rest out of the stadium, and we're going to get a good look at the Olympic tracks today for the first time as we follow the skiers around the whole 2.5 kilometre loop. A little easier than the 4 kilometre loop. Bad mistake there, not quite sure who was getting tied up. Certainly the Canadians with Robin Clegg right at the back of the field. That's a shame for Robin. He's shown that he's on good ski form and had an opportunity to get a top 10 in the relay. He's lost 100 metres with that one little mistake early on. No surprise to see Frode Andersen up the front of the lead group. Team 16 going through. That's the Slovenians with Yanis Maric, who's got a couple of good results this year, Maric. So watch out for the Slovenians. Maric, Osbolt, Pakluka, and then Lauziger, the least known and I guess the slowest of their team, bringing up the last leg. Germany taking an early lead. Danny Graf going out very strongly, 12th and 37th in the two events here, 37th in the sprint, despite the fact that he hit all the targets. And I think partially that was a ski speed problem, and partially the fact that he was tired after a very good effort in the individual race, finishing in the top 15. long, sweeping downhills. Not particularly difficult technically, but so important to have good glide on the ski. And you can see some of the gaps closing, some of them widening as skiers with the better prepared skis pull away. A long, long time. It will be infuriating to take part in the Olympics and find you're losing 5-6 seconds on every downhill section here in San Siccario. What an effort they've gone to get these tracks ready for this pre-Olympics or the World Cup, whichever you see it as. 30 centimetres remaining of the base that they've put on the track of artificial snow all the way down around the courses. 4 kilometres, plenty of different loops because of the different formats of racing. But I dread to think of the expense. But they've had to do it just to make sure that everything is possible. And I think we can be assured that even if the infrastructure isn't ready come the opening day of the Olympics, the track certainly will be, and the racing will be able to go ahead. Nice tight turns. You can hear the skis grating on the icy surface. So much colder last night. It will warm up as the sun comes up over the Italian Alps. We're not so far from the French border on the west side of Italy, here in San Siccario. And a noticeable number of French fans coming across. Hopefully there'll be even more come next year. Adam Sashurin leading the way now for Belarus. Times pretty immaterial at this stage. All important to be up in the lead group. The first shoot will shake up the order a little. And what you don't want to be is too far off the pace, like Poland and Finland, 13 and 14 seconds off the lead. They're going to have to work all the way into the final stages. The bobsleigh track you can see in the background, which will be used obviously in, 362 days time now, the opening ceremony for the Olympic Games next year. So Belarus leading the way. They've had a very poor season by their standards, and their quartet, Sashurin, Drachev, Valyulin, Simon, looks pretty good on paper, but looking at their World Cup rankings, none of them in the top 30. The best, Alexander Simon, who's now in 34th, having put in an astonishing run in the sprint event, finishing third, believe it or not, just 0.6 of a second down on the day's winner. So it was the tightest race I think I can remember. 1.5 seconds separating the top 4 positions in the sprint 2 days ago. Men a little fortunate to have had 48 hours rest. The women will be racing a little later on this afternoon, 2 o'clock local time, and have had less than 24 hours to recover from their sprint yesterday. And I know a number of them have decided not to race as a result of that. The German squad somewhat weakened with the absence of Grice and Gross, both of those 2 men. Pleased with the way things have gone here in San Siccario, but feeling a little tired after their efforts. And so in comes Danny Graf, who's taking this first leg. Andreas Bernbacher gets a run in leg number 3. And Alexander Wolf, who did race in the last relay in Ruhpolding, he races again, bringing up the rear for the German team. So there could be a lot of pressure on him. No Raphael Poiret. No Mike Dixon in the commentary box as well. You may have noticed he's disappeared to cover the cross-country events taking place in Reitenwinkel on Eurosport 2, and the 2 events coinciding. And with David Goldstrom down in Italy as well, covering the pre-Olympic ski jumping and Nordic combined. A busy weekend, and the Alpine World Championships on as well. It's been a hectic couple of days on the winter sports programme. So in they come for the first shoot, a chance for the order to shake up. They look for the lane that corresponds to their bid number, so it will be Germany nearest the camera, Russia, Sweden, Austria, Norway. Looks as though Fred Anderson had forgotten he was wearing number 5. Had to backtrack. First to settle is the Belarus Vadim Sashurin, and his first shot going wide. Remember, in the relay, 8 rounds of ammunition. the first 5 in the magazine. The remaining 3 have to be manually loaded, so you will lose a few seconds. Norway, a little bit of a disaster already with Frode Andersen. Oh, he's missed 3 and he's in trouble. Russia go clear with some good shooting from Ivan Sherazov. He really is a star in the making now. Andersen has to focus. He's got one more round and one more target. Must make it count, but the seconds ticking away. Russia, Ukraine, Germany, all out of the stadium already, and the Norwegians get the 5th one down, but valuable seconds have gone missing. Sweden with 1 miss. A little slow to settle the Swedes. They thought they may be able to do something special today. David Ekholm from Östersund making sure of his last target, but that 1 missed target and a slightly slower ski time costing him precious places in the rankings. Poland, Switzerland and the Czech Republic all on the penalty loop. What is going on at this level? This really shouldn't be happening. There is plenty of wind in the stadium, but the visibility is excellent. The pace certainly wasn't electric into the first shoot, and well, the Swiss having a real nightmare. Not something that Simon Hallenbader is going to want to remember. There goes Frode Andersen. He's got some work to do now to try and catch the leaders. Well, my money firmly on the shoulders of the Russian quartet today. Sherazov leading, Kruglov, Chepikov, Rozhkov. It doesn't come much better than that. Welcome back to San Siccario. The first shoot completed for the men's 4x7.5 relay. Sherazov of Russia leading the way at the moment. He's having a great week. You may remember the individual race, the opening race for this World Cup series. Sherazov leading after the final shoot with 17 seconds clear, but just couldn't hold on the last leg. In an interview afterwards, he said he admitted fully that he'd gone off at a sprinting pace and paid the price when he hit the 18-kilometre stage. Cramped up, tightened up, had no chance of holding on, and in the end missed out on a podium position. But he proved just what a talent he is. One of the Russian team that has been up at altitude in Armenia, and apparently his wife turning up for a couple of days in Armenia, and that really lifting his spirits, because it's been a long, hard season for the Russian squad. And well, Sherazov has definitely earned his position for a World Championship run, and if he goes well in this relay, I guess he could be the man who starts for them in Hochfilzen in a couple of weeks' time. Frode Andersen given a last chance here in this relay, and he knows it. Berger, second fastest in the sprint event, pretty much secured his place in the Norwegian team. Andersen put in the relay and given a chance. Big tumble. Looks like the Swedes who've gone down. That's unusual. David Ekholm made absolutely the right decision to dive forwards and protect the rifle. Had he gone backwards and sat down, then one, the buttock may have broken, two, the stock may have broken, and almost certainly he would have upset the sights. But he's taken the risk of getting the barrel on the back of the head and protected the rifle, and he seems to be okay, but he's lost 30 seconds as a result of that fall. The worst possible place to fall is the bottom of a downhill just before the steep uphill. And that's exactly what Ekholm has done. So Sweden now left with some work to do. You will have seen Frode Andersen has done the work to catch the group that came out of the range in front of him. But at what price? How much is he going to be puffing and panting when he comes in for this stand shoot? Sherazov looking very calm now. 24 years old, big future. The Russians getting better and better this season, and it is interesting that they're now mixing the young with the old. Their team, Sherazov 24, Kruglov 23, and then the two old boys, Chepikov at 38, Rozhkov at 33. Mixing experience with youth, and it's proving a very useful combination. Frode Andersen just going past the French with Julien Robert. Robert, pretty useful shot, hasn't actually finished in the top 10 in any races this season, so his confidence won't be particularly high, but it would be slightly ironic if the French were to be in contention at the end of the third leg, only for Raphael Poré to have decided to sit out the action and therefore miss out on the opportunity of a win and the chance of winning 12,000 euros for the team. Sherazov, work rate reasonably high. Well, just what he was asked to do at the start of this relay. He skied sensibly, but has shot absolutely brilliantly. The Germans in there as well with their first runner, which is, of course, Danny Graff. The Norwegians, Frode Andersen, in rapid fire. He's missed targets again. 3 down from the first 5. Now he's got 3 shots to hit the last 2 targets. French with a chance to go up. Julien Robert, can he clear 5? Yes, he can. No problem at all. We expect nothing less from him. And the Austrians still in contention. Good shooting by Danny Mesetic. He's got 5 down. The Italians just 20-25 seconds down off the chasing group. The Russians clear. Ukraine in second. France third. Good shooting from Julien Robert. 22.9 seconds. That's absolutely nothing in this relay event. Oh, Danny Graff on the penalty loop, and Frank Ulrich will be absolutely furious with that. That was a total lack of concentration, but you may have heard Graff's breathing rate when he came in, way up into oxygen debt, squeaking away as he took each breath, and I think the writing was on the wall. Bad tactics, lack of experience from Danny Graff, and I think that may mean that he won't be the #1 starter for the German team come the World Championships. But they do, of course, have Grice and Gross to call on. Gross will certainly get a race in the relay, and the way that Mickey Grice has been racing, I think he's pretty likely to be taking the final leg, I think, and Sven Fischer will be just the strength of the team, midfield, second or third leg. Anderson starting to turn it up. This is an important run for him. He's missed targets, but with his ski speed, he's proved that he's still fairly useful. But I think the coaches, Roger Gruben was looking for a clear shoot from Frode Andersen, and it hasn't happened. Welcome back to Italy. Great news for the Russian squad, leading the way in this men's 4x7.5. Sherazov has opened up a gap of 19.5 seconds over Derkach of the Ukraine. So that's even better news for the Russians, because the Ukrainians, I think, are going to fade come legs 3 and 4, with Prima and Lysenko not on the best form that we've seen from them. France in third place. Good run so far. Julien Robert, 22.9 off the lead. No penalty loops for them. The Austrians in fourth, just 30 seconds down. Norway with Frode Andersen in 5th place now, 40.2 behind. It's a critical distance, but watch the next split at 5.8 kilometers. Frode Andersen will certainly have cut it. He was 40.2 behind. What's the difference now? 35. That's good skiing from Andersen, but he's running out of time. Just 1.7 Ks to go, and just needs to stay on his feet. We've seen 1 or 2 big falls so far today. The corner's very icy in the early stages. It will soften up. The sun starting to warm the hearts of most of the spectators, but it's not really what the athletes want. The monstrous figure of Sven Fischer, monstrous in size rather than appearance. I mean, he's a very well-built man indeed, hugely powerful, and I think the conditions today are going to suit him, provided he takes leg 2, which is what he is doing. If he was on leg number 4, I think it would be a little too soft for Fischer. Frode Andersen continuing to close that gap down on the chasing group. The French in danger again. I think Julien Robert is going to find the Norwegian flying past him for the 3rd time today. How depressing is that? Team number 7 going well, Derkach, but he's starting to fade. It was a powerful start from the Ukrainian. Derkach from Chernigov, 50 miles or so to the west of Chernobyl. And here is the race leader and the man who's almost certainly going to hand over in first place. Has he survived the full distance today? I think he has. He's going to be a very useful sprinter indeed. I think it's not going to be long before we see him, one, on the podium, and two, winning World Cups. What an exciting prospect the Russian team have. Valery Polkovsky, the Russian coach, has done a great job this season. And as we've mentioned a number of times, they've been up at altitude in Armenia. Not the whole team staying there for the whole 3-week period, but they've been trying different formats. And I think with the successes of one Sherazov, two Begali, who won the women's individual, they know exactly what they're going to be doing next year before the Olympic Games. So they've tried and tested various training methods, and luckily for them, they've worked. So Russia hand over in first place. Sherazov handing over the baton to Nikolai Kruglov, who's another superstar in the making, just 23 years old. Great set of genes he has. His father, a double Olympic champion back in 1976. And well, I'll talk more about him as the race goes on. Firstly, just concentrate on the changeovers. Austria will be delighted in second place at the moment. Are they going to see their first relay win since 1999? I wonder. France in second, 22 seconds behind. Norway, 22.7. Oh, what a great run from Frode Andersen. Closed 18 seconds on that last leg, gaining, what, 200 metres or so on the leading group. So good ski from Andersen. That may just be enough to get him his ticket to Hochfilzen in March. Germany, the noticeable absentees from the top 6 teams. They're down in 8th position after they left the range, a full 1:09 behind. A nightmare for Danny Graf, who's had a brilliant week, but I don't think the Germans will be too concerned. They've decided that they need to rest up their best skiers. Sven Fischer on course now for Germany, though, and he certainly won't hold back. The Italians going out. There goes Danny Graf. Sven Fischer given the all clear, and away he goes. A competitive animal. Doesn't matter where he is in the field, he will give it 100%. And I tell you what, he'll start fast and get faster and faster as the race goes on. It's been a tactic he's used very successfully all season. The Italians now with René Laurent Villemot, who's been the most successful on their team so far. So we could see the Italians move into the top 5 by the end of this leg. Belenenko from Sumy in the Ukraine. I think he'll be a little surprised to find himself in the top 3 positions. France and Austria having a good battle. The French now with Feriol Canard on track. The Austrians with Friedrich Pinter. And looking at their world rankings, Canard considerably higher than Pinter. But Pinter, like most of the Austrians, a very good skier. He just doesn't have the consistency in the range that the French squad seem to have developed. Well, that will be an interesting little duel. They've got to make sure that they don't out-ski themselves and come into the range too fast. We should pick up on the race leader fairly soon, Nikolai Kruglov. I was just telling you about the successes of his father, a double Olympic champion back in 1976. But he reckons that, or his father that is, reckons that his career was cut short because in those days the Russians thought that at 23, 24 you were past your prime, and national athletes of that age were encouraged to leave, as was Nikolai Kruglov. And well, how many big names would we miss out on? If you look at the average age of the Belarus team right now, in fact, not the Belarus, the Russian, the Austrian team, their average age is 32. The Belarus team's average age, 31. So how wrong were the Russians in those days, back in the late 70s, early 80s? Sven Fischer already gained a couple of places, and the Norwegians starting to close down on the leaders. Russia still with a comfortable lead, 10 seconds ahead of France. Austria in second place, and the Norwegians now with one of their more reliable athletes, Egil Kjelland, on course. And this is looking pretty promising. They've got Eckhoff and Hannevold still to come. As you'll know, Ole-Einar Bjorndalen has decided to try his luck at the cross-country world, and he had a very disappointing day yesterday. Outside the top 40 positions, an absolute disaster. 1 minute 46, I think he was, behind the winner yesterday. And so I wonder whether he's regretting the fact that he missed out on an opportunity to pick up points in the World Cup standings and hold on to his yellow bib. And incidentally, if you are following the overall World Cup in biathlon, Poiret, the Frenchman, still leading, but his lead just 9 points ahead of Sven Fischer of Germany. Bjorndalen now 20 or 29 points behind, is it? No, in fact 19 points behind, so he's still within reach, and a little fortunate that Raphael Poiret has had a disastrous week here in San Sickario. 7th in the individual, but 31st in the sprint event, picking up no World Cup points at all. Back to the action here in San Sickario. Krugloff looking very focused. He has had problems this year getting his skis to work on the artificial snow, and well, we've used artificial snow in nearly every event this season, but different combinations, different percentages. Here in San Sickario we're about 95% artificial, so if Krugloff looks to be skiing well, then it means the Russian team and his technician have cracked the problem of preparing the right set of skis. But he has lost a little time over this first loop. I think he'll be hoping that his shooting is one up on the likes of Egil Kjelland and the Frenchman. Ferial Canard comes from Pontarlier. In fact, the next two Frenchmen, both from the same club, Canard and Defrain. Little town just next door to the Swiss border, in fact to the west of Bern. And it really would be ironic should the French find themselves in a top 2, top 3 position at the end of the third leg, now that their number one star has decided to sit out the action. Another big fall. They're going to have to watch out on that corner. You can see the icy, that looks nasty. 1, they need to know about that corner, and 2, they need to put some padding on that banner, because that could have been very serious indeed. But I think we're okay. Very quick entry for the chasing teams. Krugloff took his time, but has still thrown one wide. French struggling as well. You can see the wind. It's switching left to right, then right to left. Need to keep an eye on that. Egil Kjelland taking his time as ever and making sure. Good shooting from the Ukrainians. They've gone clear. Bilanenko rapidly getting 5 down. Russia clear with 5 out of 5. Austria clear 5 out of 5. Kjelland still taking his time, but it's starting to go wrong. No panic as yet. And Norway, having closed the gap to within 10 seconds, are going to find themselves at least 15 seconds behind the leaders. Russia, Ukraine, Austria, the leading positions after the first shoot in the second leg. The French still there, just 6.2 seconds down, and we're having a great race. This is just the way we wanted it to go. Where are the Germans? A lot of chasing to do. Second in all 3 relays so far this year, and Sven Fischer is the man who's got to close the gap to the leaders. Over a minute behind at the first exchange. That's the first time that's happened for the last couple of seasons. Well, if you were going to put your money on one man to do his job properly, it would be Sven Fischer. 5 out of 5, rapid fire, and he will certainly have closed it down to less than a minute. But with 4 teams up the front, the pressure really is on the Germans now. Russia, Ukraine, Austria separated by just 1.7 seconds, and it's the Ukrainians with Bilanenko who take the lead again. Now, what are the tactics? Krugloff, I think, will benefit from the fact that he's no longer out front and he can just relax, doesn't have to panic quite as much. I'm not sure how the French are going to cope with this. Ferial Canard it is who's taking their second leg, and then at the back of that group, the Austrian Friedrich Pinter in uncharted territory here. This is a big moment for approaching the halfway stage in the men's 4x7.5 relay. One more shoot to go on this second leg. Here you see Sven Fischer. Oh, what brilliant glide he's got on his skis. That is good news, or the only bit of good news the German team have had so far. If Fischer's gaining ground like that, you can guarantee that the rest of the German squad will do the same. Bernbacher and Wolf still to go for them, but look at the lead. It's Ukraine are up there, the French are there. The Germans are missing, we know that. The Norwegians are getting back in touch with the lead group, with Egil Kjelland taking his time to clear the targets. He did it eventually. And of course Austria and Russia, the other two teams up the front. Still a fair amount of ice on the track, but it's getting warmer and warmer. I suspect legs 3 and 4 won't have the problems that the first two legs have had on the tighter corners. We've seen 4 or 5 fallers already this morning. No damage to body or equipment, but I think it must be a little bit of a concern to the organisers. Here comes Egil Kjelland. He's working desperately hard to close the gap down. He was 17.4 behind. He's closed that to 8.7. Well, good skiing, but a big question mark over his next shoot. And the Norwegian coaching team know it. Here come the Italians. Nice to see them not too far off the pace at this stage of the race. Been a bad season for the Italians so far. René Laurent Villemo on their leg, and then they have Longo and Benaldi. I'm afraid they're going to disappear at that stage. 42 seconds. Sven Fischer has gained over 25 seconds on this leg already, and taking with him Janis Osbolt of Slovenia. Great run from the Slovenians. Maritz took the first leg, Osbolt the second. And the Slovenians' results so far 15th, 11th, and then they didn't start in the relay in Ruhpolding. And incidentally, if you're wondering why the Norwegians are wearing bib number 5, having won 2 of the relays this season, I can tell you it's because in Oberhof they got disqualified, with Lars Berger stepping off his lane with his rifle in hand, loaded, to pick up a spare round. And that obviously strictly against the rules, and the Norwegians disqualified on that occasion. But at the end of the year, one of the relay results will be knocked off. So I think we may find that the Norwegians are in contention. Here's Sven Fischer. Got some work to do if he wants the German squad to take the €12,000 top prize today. €3,000 per man. And I guess they have to give a percentage to the waxman and the coach. So it doesn't go very far. But the fact that the prize money exists at all has resulted in many of these athletes hanging around for 5, 6, even 7 years longer than they would otherwise have done so. €9,000 for the winner of an individual race. So Sergei Rozhkov considerably better off than he was at the start of the week, and in fact the Russian team making a fairly major haul here in San Sickario. Anna Begali winning the individual, Chepikov getting second place in the men's individual, and then of course Rozhkov winning the sprint event, the best sprint event we've seen so far this year. Just 1.5 seconds separating the top 4 positions in that event. The work done for Sherazov. Now, what has Krugloff got in him? He's come in fast once again, and he made some mistakes on his first prone shoot. Wind has settled a little. Shouldn't be too much of a problem in the standing position. Ukraine the first to strike with Bilanenko. Shot well in the prone, doing the same in the standing, but as I said, the first one goes wide. Austria with a chance now to take a lead. The Norwegians very, very slow. Egil Kjelland deliberate. He really can't afford to miss too many more. He's skied so hard on this second loop, you wonder what he's got left in the tank for the final 2.5 kilometers. Away go Ukraine. France clear as well with just one mistake. Great shooting from the French, and Julien Ferriol-Canard, who's taking the second leg, and a chance now for Germany to close the gap to within 30 seconds. Fischer has pushed very, very hard. He'll shoot quick. Oh, sensational stuff. Sven Fischer absolutely on fire. He was 40 seconds behind. Well, he was 1:09 behind at the beginning of the leg. He closed it to 40 after the first shoot, and Germany are going to be within 25 seconds, almost certainly 24.6, and they've gone ahead of Norway, 25.9 behind, and Hjelland has got to get on the heels of Sven Fischer if he wants to be pulled to a respectable result here in the men's 4x7.5. Great recovery from Germany. Norway, a little bit of a problem once again. We thought Hjelland might be able to hold his own, and great to see up the front France, Germany, Russia, Ukraine and Austria. Just give you an update on the Russian position. They've dropped from first to fourth, 14 seconds down. Not too bad, but Kruglov will be disappointed with that performance, but buoyed by the fact that he knows he's got the two veterans still to come. Sergei Chepikov, who is on absolutely amazing form, and then Sergei Rozhkov, the winner of the sprint. He takes the last leg for them, so as long as they're within 10-15 seconds of the lead, the Russians will still feel fairly confident that they can take the win here. What sort of strength in depth do the Ukrainians have? They have Prima and Lysenko taking legs 3 and 4. There's Kruglov. He's now got to rely on his ski speed. But the Austrians going very well. They certainly have come back to form in the last couple of weeks, and they do tend to focus on World Championships, and why not when the World Championships are taking place in your own nation. Hochfilsen, the... Welcome back to San Sickario for the men's 4x7.5. Just a quick update if you just joined us. France, Ukraine, Austria, Russia, Germany, the top 5 teams separated by 24 seconds. Norway and Italy are there as well, and the Slovenians having a great run in 8th place, 35 seconds down, and very much in with a chance of taking a top 3 finish here. There's Sven Fischer turning up the pace. We get a lot of messages from our viewers wanting to know what happens to the minor teams who they may be supporting. Well, I'll give you a quick rundown as we watch them go through the 6.7 checkpoint. Finland, Estonia, Slovakia in 11, 12 and 13. The Slovakians 2:29 behind. It's been a bit of a struggle for them so far. 9 missed targets in total, and that has cost them precious time. Latvia and Switzerland 14, 15, 2:38, 2:49 behind. And Poland, who had such a good day in the women's event with Gwizdon having an excellent run, they're down in 16th in the men's relay, 2 and 4. They've missed 4 targets in all, 3:06 the time behind, so no real chance of them featuring in the lead positions. But I think the surprise of the day, really, the Slovenians, who are having an excellent run in 8th, and the Ukrainian team still in 2nd position as they head for the 3rd exchange, I should say. Well, here comes Alexander Bilanenko in towards the finish. He's got the Austrian Friedrich Pinter. Well, I really am astonished by Pinter's performance. That's fantastic news for the Austrian team, and I think they'll be delighted. Perner and Gredler still to come, the 2 veterans from the Austrian team, 2 of the oldest men on the tour at 37, and I wonder whether they can live up to the performances of the likes of Mesetic and Pinter. It's going to be a tough struggle. The French starting to tire now. Feriol Canardo has done exceptionally well. He's just being overtaken by Sven Fischer, who's coming through, and Nikolai Kruglov has had the strength and the determination to hang on to the back of Sven Fischer. So positions 3, 4 and 5 also very, very tight. Into the 2nd exchange it is, with Ukraine and Austria slightly out front. No sign of the Norwegians at the moment, but they won't be much more than 7, 8 seconds behind this group here. Egil Hjelland had lost 10 seconds or so to Sven Fischer. Just look at this performance by Fischer. Did absolutely the right thing going in the 2nd leg with the conditions still nice and firm. The determination and the power he's got in the upper body. So into the 2nd exchange. Austria it is who get a clean changeover, and away they go with Wolfgang Perner taking their third leg. The Ukrainians also cleanly away. Roman Prima now on course for them. Germany all the way from 7th up into 3rd position, and they're not so far off the leaders, just 11.5 seconds down, and Germany now relying on the talents of Andreas Bernbacher, who is out there. Russia, Norway, 5 and 6. Italians in 7th position, 25 seconds down, doing well, catching up on the Norwegians. And a dreadful finish from Egil Kjelland of Norway, just blowing up in the closing stages. He must have overdone it on that middle loop, trying to get back on terms, having missed targets in the pro. Now it's down to Stian Eckhoff and Halvard Hannevold. Of course, Lars Berger not in the team. And although we're not absolutely sure, because they won't tell us, but we suspect it's because he's done enough to qualify for the World Championships, having been the second best Norwegian in the sprint event. And they wanted to give Frode Andersen a chance to show his talents, and he's done exactly that. He had not a bad first leg. Egil Kjelland, though, looking as though the best part of his season is over. But I guess it's a little premature to say that. We'll have to wait and see how he gets on in Pekluka. The French coach getting in the way of Sven Fischer. That's a little bit ignorant, it has to be said. Officials or not, keep yourself off the course, because these guys travelling at 30-35 kilometres an hour on the downhills and the flats. Italy and Norway now together. That's a rare combination. Stian Eckhoff is going to have to play a wise game here. He can't hold back too much, but I would be concerned if I was the Norwegian coach, because Stian Eckhoff has not put in a good race at altitude. Antholz, and of course here in St. Sickario, the altitude of 1600 meters does play a major part, and Eckhoff, one of the younger members of the Norwegian team at 25, hasn't proved himself with this sort of height gain. Of course, the oxygen's so much thinner in the air, it requires a certain fitness to survive at this level. And all the time, that leading group pulling away from Italy and Norway. Wolfgang Perner leading the way for Austria, a man who's got a huge amount of experience, on his 14th season, I think it is now. 2 wins to his name in individual events, so when he's on form, he can produce the goods. Comes from Ramsau, the one in Dachstein, as opposed to the one in the Bavarian region, just up above the town of Schladming, which hosts a number of the Alpine World Cup events. But if you ever want to get some training in the summer, Ramsau, one of the prime spots. Absolutely stunningly beautiful up on the Dachstein Glacier. But skiing up at 3,000 meters really does knock you for 6 unless you're of a reasonable fitness level. Austria, Germany, France, top 3 as they go through 1.7 on the third leg, just 1.2 seconds. It's 5 teams, only 3 seconds apart. The Russians still there, and Sergei Shepikov looks to be in control. Shepikov 38 now, and still producing as good a results as we've ever seen from him. He was absolutely delighted with his performance in the individual, finishing 2nd. Due to get married this summer to his girlfriend Elena. And I wonder how long Shepikov will keep going. He's very reluctant to state that he's going to retire after the Olympic Games next year. He'll definitely be around next season, but there's a bit of a policy in the Russian team: never say when your last race is, because it's nearly always a disaster. And I think Magdalena Forsberg's proof that is the case when she announced her retirement in Oslo. It was a great occasion, given a yellow suit to race in for her very last World Cup race, but it really wasn't her best performance, and so the Russians try and avoid that. And Chepkov also stating in the press conference post-race the other day that he approves of the fact that Ole-Einar Bjorndalen is trying to kill two birds with one stone, as he says, trying to win medals at both championships. It will be a major feat if he can do it. But yesterday's cross-country race in Reitenwinkel in Germany really shows that it's going to be a harder task than many of us thought. Those cross-country boys are absolutely flying at the moment, and a surprise win for the Slovakians in the men's 15-kilometre. In the women's event, it was the Russians who were going very well. How's that for a setting? Hopefully there'll be a little more snow at this time next year, just under the year before the start of the Olympic Games. But having said that, it is quite nice for spectators to be able to walk around the tracks on the fields, provided they're not too muddy. There's been far too much rain in this part in the last 7 days. But when the sun comes out like this, it's great weather for both competing and spectating. Now, first shoot, third leg, Austria nearest the camera. Germany with Bernbacher in lane number 2. France, Ukraine, Austria, all there ready to go, and it's the French who get the first 3 down. Good shooting from the French with Vincent Defrain, probably their strongest team member, and he rattles away 5 with 5, and France for the first time in the race open up a little bit of the gap. Chepkov safe as always, 5 out of 5 for him. He's going to be just 5 or 6 seconds down off the lead. The Austrians with 1 miss, Germany with a miss, Ukraine with a miss. Now can the Norwegians clear 5 for the first time today without any mistakes? Another miss for Germany, and Andreas Bernbacher, the pressure probably getting to the German youngster. That's not what he wanted. This is a huge opportunity for him to claim a place in the German team. The Norwegians 1 miss, but so far 4 out of 5. They should be able to recover from that and keep the gap to less than 40 seconds. The Italians with a miss, and suddenly they've found themselves falling off the back of that leading group. France, Russia, Ukraine, the leading 3 at the moment, but it's not quite come down to a 2-horse race, but there is a significant gap of 23 seconds between Russia and the Ukraine. But what a battle for third place we've got now, with Germany, Austria and Norway all within 15 seconds. Sweden trying to make something of a comeback. I don't think we're going to see their second win of the season. Nielsen on course, 2 misses from the first 5. The standard not good in the prone position. Quite a wind, you can see, blowing the locks of Matti Nielsen. Eventually it goes down, but he's lost another 20 seconds or so with those 2 misses of the chasing teams. We'll try and update you, but well, here you see the leaders going through. France, Russia, Ukraine, the leading 3, but a lot of pressure on the Ukraine now. Bernbacher, despite missing targets, has limited the damage. 30.9 seconds behind as he came out of the range. The Norwegians 43 seconds behind. Stian Eckhoff has really got to think of something special on the last standing shoot. I don't think he can afford to play it safe anymore. And the French looking so strong. It had to happen, didn't it? The one day that Raphael Perret decides that he's not going to race because he wants to save himself for Pokluka, and he's not skiing particularly well. Suddenly the rest of the French squad do brilliantly. Well, how would you like to be Simon Faussade, the man who is going to take the last leg for the French? And if things keep going as they are, they're going to find that they have the lead with just 7.5 kilometres to go. He's only done 1 World Cup, 59th in the sprint event, but he is the only man in the field to have a 100% hit record in the stand this year, but he's only taken 5 shots. But still, if he can keep that going, then maybe he will bring France home to victory, their first win of the season. Had a good World Championship event last year. There goes Vincent Defrain, not looking particularly steady on that corner, but he's not lost too much time. Everyone going wide. Now, it'd be interesting to have a look at the state of the track after this particular event to see why so many people are having a problem on that corner. It was very icy at the start of the race, and now I think some of the surface snow has been scraped away and revealed even more harder ice underneath. And just bear in mind that these skis don't have any metal edges, so they won't grip the snow. If you try and carve a turn, it just doesn't happen. The skis slide away from you. Too much weight on the inside ski as we see another faller. I think it's the Japanese that have gone down a couple of times at that particular point. Now the situation getting tighter and tighter for third place, 35 to 37 seconds, separating 3 to 6. Who's your money on now? Are the Germans going to be able to come back? They're relying on Alexander Wolf, the policeman, who takes the last leg for them. Sergei Roshkov takes the last leg for Russia. He's on form. We know all about that, having just won the sprint event, but how much energy has that taken out of him? We'll have to wait and see. Carl-Johan Bergman takes the last leg for Sweden, but they're right off the pace at the moment. Ludwig Gredler for Austria. I think he stands a very good chance, hugely experienced, and has been showing great ski form this season. Hasn't won, but he's getting faster and faster. Just keep your fingers crossed for the Austrian shooting on the stand. If that goes well, then Gredler has a very good chance indeed. Hannevold of Norway, not the quickest, but usually the most reliable. And then Alexander Simon for Belarus. The Ukrainians have Ruslan Lysenko, and I wouldn't have given them any chance at all prior to the start of this race, but having looked at the performances of Derkach, Bilanenko and Roman Prima, who's looking to tire now. There he is at the back of the field with the light blue and the white suit. So a big moment for especially the French and the Russians, who are pretty much locked at the front of the field. 4.5 seconds apart at the last checkpoint, but certainly looks as though Chepikov has closed down now on Vincent Defrain. Defrain of France coming into the range very quick indeed, not slowing down at all. His technique almost identical to that of Raphael Poiret. The wind, well, it's built and built over the last 5 minutes, consistently blowing right to left. So, is this going to be a winning shoot from Vincent Defrain? The French definitely need a lead of 30 seconds or so prior to the last leg, if Forssard is going to hold off the might of Sergei Roshkov of Russia. Roshkov, 86% hit rate in the stand this year. Vincent Defrain, 85. So pretty tight. 2 misses for the Russians at the moment, but Chepikov shooting that little bit quicker. Now come the chasing teams, and they will have seen that they have an opportunity. Anyone who hits 5 with 5 is going to certainly close to within 15 seconds of the lead. Pressure building onto Defrain, who looks a little concerned. Now, don't go into meltdown. Norway doing the best of the chasing groups at the moment. 3 out of 3 for Stian Eckhoff. Well, this really is a comeback from the Norwegians. Is he going to get number 5? No, he doesn't. He misses that. The French are on the penalty loop. 2 penalties to do. The Russians are away, and a chance to take the victory now. 1 more leg to go. Austria, the first mistakes we've seen from them. Stian Eckhoff, the best shooting in this standing shoot, the second of the 3rd leg. And Ukraine, come on, get this one down. The Austrians desperately need another hit, otherwise they'll be back on the penalty loop. Germany are away, 8.7 behind the Russians. Norway have closed to within 15 again, so they've been 5 seconds behind, 40 seconds behind. It's just 15 as we stand now. The top 3 teams in the world finally coming through. Funny how it always turns out this way. What has happened to the French? They've got penalty loops to do. The Austrians have as well. The Italians taking their time. And still only 3 teams out of the range. The Swedes must feel they've got a chance of getting back into the top 5. Nielsen needs to focus. Being blown around by the wind, doesn't look stable at all. It'd be a miracle if he gets all 5 down. I think he said, might as well get on with it. Nice quick cocking action from Nielsen. But with 2 misses early on, that's expensive. So just to recap, the French are out of the range area now, 49 seconds down. This is the battle between Bernbacher and Steen Eckhoff, and Eckhoff on the charge. Look at the dance up the step. A huge, great step up the hill on every stride, and he's gained 6 or 7 meters over Bernbacher in the space of 20. The wind building. It's going to be an almighty final leg of this men's 4x7.5 relay, and not only are the last leg going to get the hardest conditions on the snow because it's starting to soften up. The corners are now treacherous. The uphills are getting very, very sugary, but they've got the strongest wind as well. That was always going to be the case, and it's always a good reason to put the most experience last. And that's exactly what the Russians have done. It's what the Norwegians have done with Halvard Hannevold, but it is not what the Germans have done, having put Alexander Wolf in leg number 4. Ukraine now down in 6th position, 1:04 behind. The Austrians 1:41. I'm afraid they've blown their chance with some poor shooting on that last leg. Just 9 kilometers to go now. The Russians a slim margin advantage over Germany. I think they would have been hoping to have been a long, long way clear of a weakened German squad. Good skiing from Sergei Chepikov. That's just the way to take the corner. Start wide, take the racing line. Nice little delicate step turns to come around, and he actually exited the corner faster than he went in. Now, what will Vincent Defrant do? The Frenchman, 49 seconds off the lead. Andy Bernbacher shows that he's a pretty handy alpine skier as well. Comes out of the corner nicely, but the gap between himself and the Russians is growing all the time. Norway have gone from 3rd up into 2nd, and Steen Eckhoff having a superb final leg. Look at the distance he's taken out of Andy Bernbacher. 9.6 behind, having been 15 behind. It is Norway who are moving faster, so the battle looks as though it's going to come down to between Sergei Rozhkov, the winner of the sprint event 2 days ago, and Halvard Hannevold, the Olympic champion in the individual back in '98. He was also the Olympic champion in the individual in 2001. 2003, my mistake. Well, I'm not sure where your money goes, but with the Russians showing such good form all week, I'm going to keep my money where it was at the start of the race. I think they'll be able to survive this one, but it could crucially come down to the wind conditions on the first prone shoot. And if it's very, very windy when Rozhkov and Hannevold settle, that will be Norway's opportunity, because Hannevold is an excellent shot when in any condition. And I think he's the thinker of the two. Not quite as quick as Rozhkov over the snow, but as we've seen, 2 or 3 misses can be very expensive indeed. Andy Bernbacher not done a bad job. He really was dropped in it here today. Brought in to take leg number 3. Brilliant junior Bernbacher. Took 4 golds in the Junior World Championships. And his form has been improving over the last 3 or 4 weeks. 77.86 his percentage hit rate, so he's better at the standing this year, and he's shown that again today, pulling back a few places on that stand shoot, but still on the chase. There's Sergei Rozhkov wearing bib number 2, ready to go for Russia. Halvard Hannavold, you'll recognise his technique when he gets going. Slightly hunched. He's a tall man, but he hardly gets over 5'8" when he's skiing. Down towards the stadium for the first time. A really good effort from Sergei Chepikov. He was in a little bit of trouble, the Russians, tripping up on leg number 2. Nikolai Kruglov not having the best of days, but they're back in the lead again. And Chepikov, 38, handing over to the next oldest in the Russian team, Sergei Roshkov, 32. Away he goes, a third and a first already this week in San Sickario. Can he make it a double win? A little bit of a problem for Halvard Hannavold as he leads. He hasn't lost much time, but a couple of seconds will have gone missing with that mistake at the handover. Bernbacher pushing hard as he comes in. Huge, great thighs on Bernbacher. Good cyclist. And proving himself as a worthy member of the German team today. Alexander Wolf is the man who's got to do the chasing. 15 seconds to catch up on the Russian squad. Congratulations to Stiernekov. Held his nerve, didn't shoot particularly well on the prone, but was very solid in the standing in difficult conditions. Wolf looking pretty much a carbon copy of Sven Fischer as he leads the stadium, and the French, who were leading at the start of the third leg, find themselves a minute and 1 second down, handing over in fourth, but still with a chance of recording their best result of the season. 4th, 6th and 16th their results so far this year in the relay. Italy and Ukraine find themselves locked in battle, 1:17 off the lead. Vincent Defrain, well, it was a disappointing performance from him. The French have now missed 5 targets in all. Norway have missed 10. The Germans have missed 6, but they have done 1 penalty loop. That's what's cost them their time. And the Russians with 6 misses, but no penalty loops. The big teams, the French have done 2 penalty loops. That really was a pricey mistake on the third leg from Vincent Defrain, the man who we would have least expected it. Italy, 7 missed targets in all. The Ukrainians going so well up until the third leg, but 1 penalty loop has dropped them from 2nd right the way down to 7th position. Belarus 2:05 off the lead, having started the race well with Sashurin and Drechov. Valiulin now just handing over to Alexander Simon, and Simon, of course, their form man, with a 3rd place in the sprint, just 0.6 of a second off taking a win. No one through the 1.7 kilometre stage as yet, but it won't be long before they cover the ground. Taking roughly 2 minutes 25, 2 minutes 30 for each kilometre. They're covering the ground at something just under 28 kilometres an hour now. Ooh, little stumble from Sergei Roshkov of Russia. Skiing with one of the teams that has been lapped, so don't be too concerned about the dark suit. I think it's the Japanese, finding it quite difficult to pick up on the number. And Halvard Hannavold, as you saw, 60 metres or so off the pace. Yes, it is the Japanese. They've taken some bad falls today. And Daiksu Ebisawa heading towards his exchange. They're going to be 2.5 kilometres at least behind the leaders when they hand over to Watanabe, who takes the last leg for Japan. Germany 25 seconds behind. They're losing ground, but so are Norway. Russia pulling away. Roshkov really is turning the screws, but he's got to be very careful indeed. What he wants to do is get safely through the prone and then start to do the work. He cannot afford to ski too hard and make mistakes and then rely on determination for the last 2.5 kilometres. For Foussard of France. Well, he looks confident enough on the skis and certainly isn't losing too much ground. French 1 minute 1 second behind, and he's kept the margin exactly the same, so he's covering the ground at the same time as Sergei Roshkov, which is impressive because Hannavold can't do it, and nor can Alexander Wolf of Germany. There's Wolf, looks to be closing now on the Norwegians. He was 31 behind at the exchange. We'll see how Wolf is going. We'll get another split time. 1.7 kilometres completed, 25, so he's gained 5 seconds. Roshkov looking beautifully composed, not a huge man, around 5'8.5", 5'9". Nice easy rhythm, good balance from Roshkov. Polkovsky, the Russian coach, will be delighted with the way things have gone so far, but he knows it's too close to call. One missed shot could change the order. Every missed shot costing a minimum of 10-11 seconds due to the fact that the spare round has to be manually loaded. If any of these leading teams miss more than 3 in one of the shoots and they find themselves on the loop, their chance of a win has gone completely. 12 seconds separating Russia and Norway. Norway and Germany separated by 13 seconds, so just 25 seconds separating the top 3, and the French a minute behind, but Foussard inexperienced, and for me pushing a little bit too hard on the first leg. No holding back for Roshkov. The tactics clear to see. Now, is this going to be rapid fire and hope for the best, or will he just take his time? Strong wind now, it's switched directions, left to right, was right to left, and it could mean a massive misses. Good recovery from Roshkov. Pressure now switches back to Hannavold, and Alexander Wolf settling in lane 3 for Germany. Well, that's just what he needed to do. Hannavold needs to be safe. 3 out of 3 so far. Was 12 seconds behind. Down goes number 5, and Hannavold of Norway has done the best job so far. Germany struggling. Wolf was gaining ground on the Norwegians, but he has done it at a price. 3 misses out of the first 5. That's awful shooting from Wolf, and not something that Frank Ulrich will be too impressed by. The French with a chance to move up into 3rd now. Now, what is Foussard? Let's have a look. We haven't seen him on the World Cup so far this year. Is he going to be a big name for the future? He's got some supporters. Oh, what a shame. What a shame. I wonder whether he heard the shouts. I think he must have done. Started to think about it. The first 3 were so smooth, lovely shooting, and then his nerve went. Germany back on the penalty loop for the 2nd time today, and Wolf is almost certainly going to find himself overtaken. Now, this shot needs to go down for the French if they want to finish in the top 3 today. And down it goes. So Foussard is going to go ahead of Germany. It's going to be a very tight fight between those two. Good shooting from the Ukrainians and the Italians. Lysenko goes clear, 5 with 5. The Italians with Benaldi on course, 5 with 5. And that race for 3rd place is far from over. So Russia, 1 hour, 8 minutes, 12 seconds, 13 seconds clear of Norway. Another big faller. Now that looks like the Estonian team this time. Now we've seen that, and he's completely snapped his pole. Must be someone there who's got a spare. There we go. Now that's the problem with the modern handle. He's left with a strap on the hand which he has to get off, and away they go. Team number 14, the Estonians, and Indrek Tobrelut's taking a massive crash. I think he'll be buying the rest of the team beers tonight as a result of that. But there's got to be some problem with the track, because we've not seen so many fallers all season, let alone in one race or one meeting. Adele Turner, the British woman, taking a nasty fall earlier on in the week. So it's going to be very interesting to talk to the skiers after this particular race to find out why they're having so many problems. It could be an icy patch on that corner that's just been exposed. Could also be a wet patch with so much moisture now on certain sectors of the course, the south-facing corners, where it's warmed up dramatically during the course of this race. And if the ski runs from a dry patch into a wet patch, then it can suddenly stop it as the suction takes hold. Approaching 3.8 kilometres of this final leg, and I think the French will be delighted with the way that it's gone, but you just have to ask yourself the question, what would they have managed to do had Raphael Poré decided to race? Now, he's not been racing well, but is that good enough reason to say to pull out of the team effort? But I also suspect that the fact that he's not there has meant that Robert, Canard, Dufresne have all felt a little more responsibility, and it's brought the best out of them. Vincent Dufresne will be kicking himself for his prone shoot that went horribly wrong, but certainly Robert and Canard absolutely flying and shooting very well indeed. So all in all, it's been a good performance by the French team, and they could find themselves on the podium for the first time this year without their main man. Good cornering from the Italians. Race leader Sergei Roshkov still looks fairly comfortable, do you think? Whereas Faussade of France is working very hard indeed to hold off the challenge from the three chasing teams. Good stuff from Germany. Alexander Wolf has made misses, but he's driven hard. He has no option now. He's got to take the risks, and he's got to shoot fast come the standing shoot. The same with the Italians and the Ukrainians. So lots of possibilities for personal best performances. The Ukrainians 5th, 8th and 7th in the three relays so far this year. The Italians, on the other hand, have been 12th, 7th and 13th. So they're almost certainly going to get their best for the year, but they want a top three, and it's not out of the realms of possibility at the moment. 120 behind, they're only 11 seconds off third place. But look at that, the wind, if it can move those trees, it can certainly blow a biathlete around who's preparing for a standing shoot, trying to hit a target of 11.5 centimetres across at 50 metres. It's a tall order. Thank goodness this didn't happen just before the prone shoot, but it was always on the cards, with the temperature rising at around a degree every half an hour. And 2 o'clock, just about the windiest time of the day. The women are going to have a very tough race indeed in their relay. Faussade still holding off Wolf, who looks to be a little bit of a spent force. He's starting to tie up. I suspect that there's a massive lactate pumping around his muscles. The Italians and the Ukrainians taking full advantage going through, but does this make it a lottery? Well, the good thing about the relay is it's the same for all of them. Roshkov can't afford to panic. If it's tough for him, it will be tough for those who are following in 30 seconds time or so. The whole range open, so it's no advantage to be up this end. Yeah, we know all about it, but what is it going to do to this man's aim? 5 with 5, and the race is in the bag for Russia. Well, as we said, Hannibal, the master of shooting in these sort of conditions, and he really is rattling them down at the moment. Oh, this is phenomenal stuff from Halvard Hannibal. Has he brought Norway back in? One little twist of the tail for Hannibal. That last one goes wide, but Roshkov of Russia is in a bit of bother. He's got... Oh, Hannibal rushing that one. I think he just put the... I think he let it go before he was ready, to be honest. And he's missed 2. Roshkov has missed 3, and he's got 1 target, 1 shot left. This is going to be tight. It's going to be a skiing race, provided this goes down. Oh, Roshkov's thrown it wide. He's on the penalty loop, and Hannibal is going to have an advantage of at least 150 metres. So suddenly, the chasing teams are fighting for second, not necessarily third, because Roshkov is on the penalty loop. Away go Norway. It's been a very, very good performance by Halvard Hannibal. Andersen was up to his normal tricks, missing targets, but skiing like the wind. And then Egil Hjelland, who had a poor run for by his standards. Sten Eckhoff was steady and solid, got Norwegians back into contention. But Halvard Hannibal has excelled himself, and he is away and clear. The clock ticking, 32 seconds. No one's going to catch Norway now, but who is going to take third? Russia have come off the penalty loop. They're 27 seconds in arrears, and the pressure getting to Germany, Italy, Ukraine and France. Where's your money? Tense moments. And it's Fossard, the French youngster, who has cleared the 5 targets first. Wolf of Germany has got to find some energy, but he did ski that middle loop so fast. I can't believe he's going to be able to do too much damage. Italy are on the penalty loop. Their chance of coming third is gone, and the Austrians in a spot of bother now. And despite the fact that their 2 veterans, Perner and Gredler, have gone last, it has all gone horribly wrong since that second exchange. So the race for third position is still on, and it is between, as you can see, France and Germany. What a moment for Fossard if he can hold on to third position. That would be a little ironic, as we said earlier on, and I wonder if Raphael Poiré is kicking himself. But Poiré's absence has given a new man an opportunity, and he's taken it, and he's put in a very, very impressive run. Ukraine now 132 behind. There's not much chance that Ruslan Lysenko is going to be able to close that gap down on Alexander Wolf, and the Italians can certainly finish in 5th, provided Sergio Bonaldi has something left in the tank. Hannibal making sure, you can see how on the corners they're drifting from the inside to the outside, and that's indicating that the bits of the track that are still relatively shaded, that particular corner has only just come into the sun, and it's still very, very icy on that part of the course. So Hannibal absolutely right to take it steady. Fossard has been overtaken by Wolf, and is he going to try and hang on? No, I think he's lost it. So the French are going to drop from 3rd to 4th. Wolf has recovered a little. Good shot of the tracks. It's nice and open. It really will be a great occasion when we get the Olympic crowds, and that's assuming people are going to turn up for the events like the mass start and the pursuit. Looking through the Olympic website, I see the tickets ranging from $125 up to $200 for the mass starts and the pursuit. So it's going to be an expensive occasion, but on both of those days you will get 2 races. So I guess it's worth it, and it really will be a fantastic atmosphere if the best in the world are all on form at the same time. Roshkov looking a little unsteady, a little like a newborn giraffe as he comes round that corner. He's not quite as tall though. And the Japanese get to feature once again. Don't say they're being lapped for the second time. I have a feeling they might be. Norway leading 119.23 on the clock at the moment. The winning time in Ruhpolding was 1:28.46, so it looks as though this is going to be a few minutes quicker than that time. An indication, not that the course is shorter, because it's exactly 7.5 kilometres, and the indication that the snow running a little quicker here in San Siccario, despite the fact that we're at altitude. The frozen tracks proving very, very fast today. Good comeback from Wolf. A younger version of Sen Fischer, certainly. Fossard hasn't got much left, but he has certainly done himself proud today. Four relays this year already, and Norway are just about to notch up their third victory. So 3 victories and 1 disqualification. Sergei Roshchev, a look over the shoulder just to make sure. He's given up the chase on Halvard Hannevold. He's not going to be able to close that gap down. Very little distance to go now for the leading teams. 32 seconds between Norway and Russia. Germany 59 back, so a good 25, 26 seconds behind Germany. Top 3 positions pretty much assured. France are fading in 4th place, just looking to see whether the Ukrainians could go for 4th. I don't think that's going to happen. Still 20 seconds between France and the Ukraine, and the Italians now 8 seconds down on the Ukrainians. So it's been a good finishing ski from Ruslan Lysenko. He's going to hold on to the Ukrainians' best result of the season so far. And then Sweden, 9 misses, 1 penalty loop. The Austrians, 12 misses, 3 penalty loops, so throwing away a potential win. And it was the 2 last legs where it all fell apart, with Perner and Gredler, the 2 people we thought might be able to bring them onto the podium. Hasn't happened. Frode Andersen was the man who took the first leg for Norway. It's Halvard Hannevold coming in to finish, and well, they've done it without Oss, without Bjorndalen, without Berger. And who's going to bet against them in the World Championships? I think I will, to be honest. I think the big occasion might rattle them a little, but they've taken the win today. Andersen, Hieland, Ekhoff and Hannevold. The Russians who had my money are coming in. It looks as though they're being caught by team number 3, but that's not the case. Sergei Roshkov has still got 30 seconds advantage over the German team, so no need to expend any more necessary energy. He'll need it for Pakluka next week. That is where the tour's going. They've got an 8 or 9 hour drive to get there, all the teams driving, and some of them have decided to stay in Italy tonight. Others are going to be leaving as soon as the racing is finished. As soon as the women's race is finished, they'll pack up and head over to Pakluka for next week's races, which start again on Wednesday and run right the way through to Sunday. And in comes Alexander Wolf. The wind really picking up to gale force now, and I'm just thinking of the women's race and who we have to favour in these sort of conditions. And I think really the Russians will probably prevail. France, a respectable 4th position. Their results so far this year, 4-6-16, so they've equalled the best the first they achieved in the first relay, which took place in Biderstolen. Ukraine in 5th position, 138 down. They were in contention right the way up to the middle of the 3rd leg. Sweden coming back, a bit of a comeback from them in 6th overall, but they'll be very, very disappointed. It all went wrong early on. Bjorn Ferry not really putting Sweden in the mix. And the Italians, who at one stage we thought were going to finish in the top 4, fading to 7th. Austria, likewise, 3 penalty loops today. That really is poor by anybody's standards, and certainly by their own. And that doesn't give us too much confidence for the Austrian World Championships in March. The Austrians were hoping that the relay might be their chance of taking a gold medal. Not on today's evidence. So there's confirmation of the top 8 positions here in San Siccario. The Norwegians have done it again. 3 wins this season out of the 4 relay races. Russia in 2nd, which is their best of the year, but they had so much potential in that team and they didn't hold back. Sherzov, Kruglov, Chepikov, Rojkov, but just fading with the windy conditions at the end. I think we're looking at the anchor man for the Norwegian team, or I guess Bjorndalen will claim that. It's going to be a difficult choice for Roger Grubben. Do you put Hannevold last or Bjorndalen last, and do you include Berger and Andersen? It's all sorts of problems, but nice ones to have. So many teams like the French really don't have too much choice as to who they race. And the Swedes are in the same position with Ekholm, Ferry, Nielsen and Bergman. They've just got to hope that all four are on form on the day. The Estonians coming in, Indreks Tobolets took a bad fall on the first lap of his leg, and that must have knocked the wind out of him, but they were already out of contention at that stage. Other teams coming through. Belarus, another disappointing run, down in 9th. In past years they've been so good at the relay, but things have gone horribly wrong this year. They don't have anyone in the top 30 of the World Cup rankings, which is somewhat surprising, but maybe they'll come to form for the big event. Slovenia in 10th, Slovakia in 11th. When they went through the last checkpoint, and I guess that will be an interesting duel between those two, Slovenia and Slovakia. Belarus confirmed their position in 9th, and it is the Slovenians that just take the win over the Slovakians. Dinoth out skiing, surprisingly, Madiasko of Slovakia. Poland in 12th position. They got a poor start, the Poles. .507 behind the leaders, which is just about 2 kilometres, so they weren't far off being lapped on this 4x7.5. The Czech Republic 5:24 down. The Czechs team today made up by Petr Garabik, who took the first leg, Schlesinger, a good youngster who's showed some promise this year, Roman Dostal the third, and then Zdenek Vitek, who's had an up and down career, Vitek, but he took the last leg for them. But it's not a result that they'll be too chuffed with. The Czechs have finished 11th, 9th and 5th, getting better all the way through the season until today. They dropped back down to 13th, finishing just ahead of the Latvian team. Finland coming in now, and that's just about all we've got time for here in San Sickario for now. The women's event coming up later on Eurosport International, and 2:15 the starting time for that local time. So